Hello, welcome to Big Bang Radio Spotlights. This is a show where we talk to independent artists from all around the world about their music and the process for making it. I'm your host, Nouran, and today I got to interview Mikei Gray from the alternative indie band The First. Without any further ado, here is the interview. Mikei, thank you so much for joining us today. We really do appreciate it. So the first thing I always ask for the interviews is how would you describe your sound to someone who may have never heard your music before?
Well, I think Google throws us in the alternative/indie rock category. So that's usually a pretty good place to start. But, we bring in influences from, hip hop and surf and reggae and just all kinds of really almost every genre.
So your band, The First, you guys started flat for a few years now. So how did you and your band come together?
Well, it started by myself. I was just trying to, really get the emotion out. I was writing songs in what they call a Nashville Music Row, which is where, a lot of songwriting for film and TV and other artists that don't write their own music and things like that is taking place. And I was doing a lot of writing there, and I just kind of wanted to start a rock project and, write the material myself and eventually bring in all my friends to collaborate. And here we are now.
How long have you and your band been friends before you started the group The First?
Oh gosh, I would say as far back as 2013 maybe. I met everybody individually in a really cool way, and a lot of the guys didn't know each other. Some of them did, and it was just really cool to bring everybody together and kind of, do sort of a collaborative rock project here in Nashville.
So when it comes to your songwriting, what is the process like? And do you and your band tend to write together, or do you just tend to write by yourselves?
I tend to write all the material and then pretty much bring in each member as, I think it would be a cool addition. And each one just knocks it out of the park in their own way. Some of them do it, some come here and record, some record from their own studios. So it really is on a case-by-case basis, but all the material's written, I would say organically with a guitar and pen in hand on pad, and then bringing everybody in afterward.
And how do you come up with the idea of creating a song?
I would say they more hit you. I've had songs come in dreams. I've had songs come from things that people say, or, even Tarantino, I was watching TV and, it was like, oh man, that'd be a cool idea for a song, we weren't even watching one of his films, it was like some boring commercial and you kind of zone out for a second and a song might hit you. So, the Notes app in your phone is ever full of ideas.
Absolutely. Yes, for sure. So in the year of 2019 and 2020, you and your band released a few singles from your debut album, Prelude. Could you tell us what was the process like recording that record?
Well, it varied from single to single because it started with the first single, Another One, and there wasn't a lot of anticipation for any songs after that. I didn't really think anybody would be interested in it. It was just kind of it kind of just started with that song, and then all people were like Alan Cross from The Edge in Toronto, and I was kind of surprised, and immediately I thought well, I got to follow this up with something. So then we did Cycles, and so each single just kind of followed the next, as in oh, people want something again, so let's get something out, before they get bored, and then here we are. So.
Well, how long did it take you guys to come up with the whole album itself? How many years or how many months did it take you guys to come up with the album?
I'd say no more than a year. Again, it's hard to say because each song was kind of written one at a time. But I would always have the next maybe 2 or 3 songs ahead, kind of playing as soon as I'm done with this one, I can't wait to get to, that one or the next one. And so it almost was written backwards, kind of from how it plays. In terms of Tarantino down, it was almost kind of written from the album tracks up.
Out of all the songs, and speaking of the songs, which one is your favorite song to perform, either on stage or recording in the studio?
Well, Tarantino's a lot of fun. I mean, I know a lot of bands don't like to play their favorite song or whatever, but we like playing that song. It's a lot of fun, and I think it's even a little bit more raw and aggressive live, and maybe a little bit more full of emotion, which is always cool to see. Other than that, Ammo's a lot of fun. Pawn Shop's probably one of my favorites. Cycles, any I guess any of the upbeat kind of tempo, which is most of the record.
Like another one, drifting left and right some 7-Eleven, spoon junkie heaven, purchase and selling here.
So when it comes to the music industry, who would you say is your icon in this industry?
Oh, wow. Well, everybody says Clive Davis because, he's kind of the godfather of the industry. So definitely him. On a personal level, of course, Charlie Lindano has been a big influence on us. Who else? Yeah. Carry the 4PR, High Road Publicity. I mean, there's been a lot of folks behind the scenes that have helped us out.
Did you have an artist who influenced your instruments that you play, that inspired you to play an instrument?
Well, I would say Stevie Wonder and Dave Grohl playing all the instruments on their own records at times definitely inspired me to get the project started, because I thought if I can, do a few tracks myself, then, everybody around town will want to play on the record, and it worked. And then as it turned out, that was kind of a fun thing to do in itself. So I would say they were definitely influences, and even more recently than that, Dinosaur Pileup from the UK. That's a guy that, does a lot of instrumentation himself. So, it was encouraging to take that leap and give it a shot.
So you currently, like you said earlier, you live in Nashville, Tennessee, which is a very wonderful place.
It is.
How has, living in Nashville influenced the sound of your music?
In so many ways, I couldn't even name them all. Like, for instance, I didn't even play any slide guitar before I moved here, which I know people typically associate with country music, but, you hear that in Beck songs or that's the only person I can think of off the top of my head. But, a lot of different artists. And so like 7-Eleven, for instance, the slide part in there, I never would have played before I was in Nashville working as a hired gun. And I would say my overall approach to the instrumentation and production, just bringing people in and out. Everybody's got really thick skin here, and they can take a lot of
criticism.
Yeah. When we would rehearse, we would sit down and listen afterward and make adjustments and go back and do it again. And, everything mic'd up like it would be in a studio to really get that fine detail that you would hope to see in a live presentation.
So we all get, motivated by different things around us, and how we get motivated every day. For you specifically, what's one thing that motivates you every time you create your music?
Well, I would say unrest. Sort of a restless spirit. I think a lot of that comes from background, and I think a lot of people have something in their life that works them up a little bit sometimes. And I think that's something that I've learned through our fans, that across the globe, whether it's India or the Philippines or Japan or, Europe or here, it's a lot of people are struggling with mental health is a big thing right now, that the second album we'll talk about. And families and just the things that we all kind of go through in life. I guess life would be the answer, because life's not always easy, but it's also a lot of fun too. So
as we mentioned with the whole writing process, how do you decide what to write about with songs, or even trying to create an album? How do you process that?
Well, you write as many songs as you can, and then you shave away as many as you can to the bare essentials, And that was something that Charlie Lindano taught us, was sort of the Springsteen rule, as they now call it, the 3-to-1 or sometimes 4-to-1 kind of ratio of songs that you write and record, not just write, but may actually record, that just don't even get released. So, each album has a whole other album of songs that, we just cut because we felt like they weren't, essential to the experience. Although on the second album, we'll take a little more liberty. Songs might be a little bit longer or a little bit shorter, and everything in between. But, on the first album, we want to keep it very light for, 10 songs and unknown band.
So when it comes to performing on stage or recording in the studio when you create your album or songs, what do you prefer to be in the most, recording in the studio or performing on stage?
I used to say performing on stage, but now I look back, at about a decade on the road, and it's nice to be in the studio now, just expressing yourself through all the different instruments and the sounds, and really having the time to dial things in. Live, you get some great tones, but it's always very fast, and you don't really have time to twist the knobs and really get a good sound out of anything, whether it's the bass amp or the guitar amps or even the drum kit, really getting it tuned up. We spent a few days just tuning the drums and getting them really nice for the different songs, and you don't have that liberty live. So it is nice to be in the studio, but we do miss performing live, and we are going to try a socially distanced concert outside of Louisville, Kentucky. And we'll see how that goes.
So as like a lot of artists and bands face obstacles throughout their daily lives, like with their music, with what they see, what do you think are the obstacles that artists or bands face today?
Well, I think there's infinite possibilities, and we're kind of in the time of everything. Like, everything's popular right now. There kind of is no trend. Like, all trends are popular right now. And that's amazing. We certainly love it. Our playlists are incredibly diverse, but that's just it. The diversity is key. So that's certainly where we're going to kind of steer the ship for the second record, is a little bit more diversity in the songs, because I think that's what listeners kind of almost expect from a record now.
So as we talk about artists, what advice would you give to artists who are just starting out the music industry?
I would say learn as much as you can, but learn only one or two things at a time, because I've certainly gotten bogged down trying to take on too much at once. And over the course of, a decade or so, it's been nice to have multiple skills in the bag, or just have developed relationships with musicians. I would say be nice to the musicians. A lot of artists that hire on bands or work with bands, even in a collaborative manner, can be very disrespectful. And, musicians put up with a lot. They're gentle creatures. So that's one thing I learned as a sideman, as they call it, is be nice to the band and always be nice to the fans, right? Because, even if it's a bad day for you, it still could be the best day of their life, so that's important. And, drink good coffee, I guess.
Yeah, and never give up. That's always the goal.
And truly never give up, because I'll tell you, after every major accomplishment, there was always a serious lull,
So, real quick, before we go, so as this year is coming to an end and your music is going out really good and everything, could you tell the listeners what do you hope to achieve in the next year that's coming?
Well, it's hard to say. I didn't think we would be at radio, much less have a number one in California, Laguna Beach of all places. And it's hard to say what I hope happens next, because I'm already so just grateful and surprised by what happened even in 2020 amidst all this crisis, So we're excited to collaborate with more people. We hope to, shed some of the stigma about mental health, and that it's okay to talk about. It's something that everybody, struggles with, and turn more skeptics into believers.
So as a new year is coming, are you currently working on a new material, like a new single, a new album with your band?
Absolutely. The second album is written, and it's called This Never Happened. And the first single is called Small Talk, and it'll be out in January 2021. Just hard to believe. That feels an eternity away. That's only 10 to 12 weeks away.
That's not far away from now, actually.
It's not. 10 to 12 weeks is what I should have said.
I wish you guys best of luck, and
thank you so much.
Yeah, your music is amazing. And could you just tell the listeners where can they find you and your band's music?
Yeah, go to thefirst.com, no I, thefirst.com. You can find us there, and on all the socials at The First. Facebook and Twitter are at The First Official. Everywhere is The First. Or just Google us now. Some fans made a wiki, so you'll find us there, and hopefully trolling your town soon.
Thanks to Mikei for sitting down with us and talking all about his music. If you want to see more interviews just like this, you can go to facebook.com/Studio67NCC, youtube.com/NashcomCollege, or you can find us on Instagram at Studio67NCC. Thank you all for watching. I'm Nouran, and remember to stay positive.